All right, Kurt, thank you so much for being here today. Let's start with your origin story, Kurt. Take us back to college to where when you started with one ATM and tell us kind of what was the vision then, and also how did you convince yourself that this could actually become a viable business and not just a side hustle?
My father and uncle started a garbage company in Portland, Oregon. So I watched my immediate family run their own businesses. So it's always something that was I was going to do. In fact, I didn't even plan on going to college. I thought it's probably going to be self-employed. You know, there's not a lot of raises that happen from uh, education sometimes, but I'm glad I did. I uh, actually wrote a paper for a money and banking class on ATM machines. Nebraska was one of the last states to open up for on-screen surcharge, so that $2, $3 that you pay in order to take cash out of an ATM machine hadn't been allowed in the state of Nebraska until 1999 when I was in college. I wrote a paper on it, and it was tough finding some information. I ended up getting a hold of a guy out of Colorado that owned an ATM business. Kind of long story short, I met up some guys that own a payphone business and they were starting an ATM business, and I had some ideas, and so we started in business together, me and three other guys, and then probably 7 or 8 years into it, we just kind of had some differences in where the company was going, so I ended up buying my business partners out of the business, and been running it, owning it ever since.
Was there anything that was it the paper or was there anything that particularly drew you to the ATM model? Or was that kind of a fluke that you happened to do a paper on it and it was interesting?
Well, I thought it was weird that you'd go to a bar in Iowa or Nebraska, and
Uh-huh.
and ATMs weren't there. Like they
Yeah.
just back in when I was in college, and when I came from Washington State originally, I grew up just outside of Seattle. I mean, they were ubiquitous; they were everywhere, and so I was. I just thought that was weird. And then as I kind of figured out, oh, they didn't allow for on-screen surcharge. So I had a pretty good idea of what the market was going to look like because I was on the West Coast and I knew like how many places ATMs were there, and they
Mhm.
just weren't like that here. So I was like, oh man, it's really wasn't like, any great epiphany. I just thought, I'm pretty sure what this is going to look like in 7, 8 years. If I
Mhm.
get into this business, there's a pretty good chance, even if I'm not good at it, I can I can be fairly successful just because there's not a lot of competition. There just wasn't anybody else in the state doing it because it
Mhm.
wasn't legal to do. I mean, so yeah,
Well,
it
hold
was.
on. So back up. It wasn't legal to do. Were you part of making it legal?
No, I had nothing to do with that. No, just this on-screen surcharge just wasn't allowed in the state of Nebraska. I was actually a year or two later
Uh-huh.
opened up for on-screen surcharge in about 2001. Same scenario. So we expanded a lot there also, just because there wasn't ATM companies out there putting ATMs in the ground because you couldn't make that on-screen surcharge.
Yeah.
So it didn't make it was banks only. So really limited to the amount of offsite ATMs that financial institutions really wanted to have. So
Yeah. Well,
when that
something
became
that,
legal,
oh, sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, good.
Oh, just when surcharge became legal and you could put a fee on there. Well, that opened up the economic windfall to put units out in take chances on significantly greater locations.
Yeah. Okay. This is amazing. So here's what I want to just underline is that when you were sharing that, I was like, this is the like the entrepreneurial mindset. You sort of it was sound like it was kind of baked in. Like you're like, I have a vision. You're like, I'm not really sure if it's gonna work, but just that willingness to try. So I have some questions on it. Like, was that has that always been, is that just kind of like, do you just innately come by that sort of energy? Like, I don't know if I know what this looks like, but I'm willing to just jump in. Is that kind of just, someone would describe you as like, yeah, I only need about 14% of the information. I can't see the whole vision, but I'm willing to jump in.
Well, I just watch my dad, my uncle do that exactly. I mean, starting a starting an ATM business in Nebraska has some risk involved in it, but starting a garbage company in Portland, Oregon, significantly more risk. Like literally people tried to run my dad over. Like they would slash the tires of his garbage trucks. They would, I mean, like we grew up knowing like, like dad's mad because the tires got slashed again, or somebody dumped some sugar in the gas or the diesel of his truck. Like that happened a lot. People would follow him around, take pictures. Like it was the garbage business. I mean, you watch stuff in the movies, like it's real. Like there were some real characters in that industry, and so yeah. I mean, I guess it was kind of like we grew up around it
I know,
enough.
so
We were
cutthroat in the garbage
Oh yeah, it was
industry.
crazy. Like, you watch Sopranos or something like that, and you're like, oh, why were they garbage? Oh, that's why they're in the garbage business. So yeah, we grew up I mean, not in the mafia in any way, but certainly just
It's like
um
disclaimer, I was not in the mafia. I like it.
no, no, absolutely not. Yeah. My father definitely wasn't either. So he actually left the garbage business to become a pastor. So I feel like that's also uh
Fascinating. Another period. Well, so you're hitting on something here, which is risk tolerance, right? Like how
sure.
do you, so it sounds like you kind of grew up, that was sort of the waters you were swimming in was risk tolerance was kind of something. Is there anything that you felt like you had to intentionally walk yourself through when it comes to like the risk tolerance side of entrepreneurship?
I mean, I set out knowing that I was going to start my own business.
Uh-huh.
That was whether failed or succeeded. I was going to do that. My goal wasn't to actually make money. My goal was I just figured it was the best option I'd have to own my time rather
Mm,
than try and get wealthy. I've done okay. Either way, but I think more than I mean, my goal was always just own my time. I don't
mhm,
want to work for somebody. I watched my dad and my uncle really take that as their mantra. They made good money in the garbage business, but more than that, they very quickly moved to bring in some employees, bring and really just they could do what they wanted to do. And I just loved that idea that they very early on, they weren't going to wait to retire.
mm,
They were gonna go to work if they wanted to when they wanted to, and they were gonna play when they wanted to. And
mhm.
I just enjoyed that a lot. We did a lot of traveling for wrestling and other things. I wrestled in college and all the way through high school, and it was a really enjoyed it. So I just thought, you know what, I no matter how good a job I get, if I'm working by the hour, I gotta be there. So this is um, my goal is to have flexibility.
Yeah, time freedom. Was there anything that was super compelling? You're like, I don't want to exchange my time for dollars because I would rather be spending my time on this certain thing? Or was it just, I just want to have the freedom to choose? Or was there something compelling about you knew how you wanted to spend your time instead?
Um, I boy, that's a good question. I don't know if I ever thought about it that much, that in depth. Um, I would say that I knew I wanted to have kids. I wanted to have a family. And I wanted to make sure. I saw a lot of my friends, um, growing up, not being able to spend a lot of time uh, with their dad. That seemed to be there was a lot of we had friends that worked for Boeing, worked nights, construction. It just seemed like they just really lacked the ability to choose when and where they worked, and they would be moved from nights to weekends and mornings, like it just different work schedules, and it was always seemed like it was set by them, and I just really didn't want to ever have to be told when I had to work. Although when you open your own business, you realize you go from having one boss to having 3,600 or
All
whatever
the
we have now.
customers become bosses.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah, everybody's your boss. But I
Yeah.
mean, it is it's been enjoyable to kind of learn
Yeah.
about
Well, I
that
asked that question
process.
because I think,
Mm.
for those who follow, the Simon Sinek's of the world, like the start with why. And it sounds like even if it's not incredibly conscious or at the forefront, there's usually a compelling why. If you're going to go into entrepreneurship or you're going to be a business owner, you you're willing to take some risk. There's usually a compelling why behind it. And it sounds like for you it was time freedom and sounds like quality time, family quality time.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say both were pretty important. I love hobbies. I love, yeah, I got my pilot's license a couple of years ago. I just kind of like to do different things, and it's tough to do that stuff on a 9 to 5 schedule.
Yeah. And hunting, I see for those who maybe are not watching this on YouTube, there are some deer hanging on the wall behind you. So I assume hunting, pilot, we've got many multi interests, it sounds like.
Yes, yep, yep.
Okay, so going from one ATM to over 3,000, that's no small feat. So what like mindset shifts, habits, or philosophies did you learn or lean on most during those years when maybe it felt impossible or it felt overwhelming, or maybe did it ever feel, maybe it never felt impossible and overwhelming? And then I have other questions if that's the case. But tell us what did you lean on that got you through before you had a proven concept? What got you through it?
Um, I was terrible at sales. I was not. I'm not a speaker of any. I mean, I don't really. I'm not the best communicator. I realized very early on that I was not going to be the smoothest. My old business partner was like,
Mhm.
he was amazing. Like, and I just. I thought, okay, I can learn this. I was like wrestling. I can practice this. I can do this. And I got better,
Mhm.
but I was never good at sales. But what I realized is that I could get up early, I could go all day and just keep asking, like poorly at best, but I'd be there. If my old business partner could land a deal every four people he talked to, I realized that I just needed to talk to eight, and I would get the same numbers. Like I would still close those deals. And so I just took a very rudimentary approach to what we're doing. I learned um, enough about my business, but I quickly tried to learn more about my customers' business than about really what I was doing, like trying to give some value on what I very quickly would go into a lot. C stores is what we sold most of our ATMs to or placed in. And so I'd go from one C store to the next, and I'd say, hey, I noticed this guy's doing this over there. Just I would try to give something of value and just to start the conversation. And probably, you know, um, but yeah, I wish I could say I was good at what I did, but I wasn't, and I'm still not. Just
Well,
I'm
listen,
just
here's what I hear, Kurt, is um, you were willing to be a beginner. And that's what's really a lot of people struggle with. Like, if I don't start by being the valedictorian in this thing, I'm not even going to try. And you're like, listen, I'm willing to start where I am. Like, I might get 1 out of 8, but I'm going to get 1 out of 8. My partner might get 1 out of 4. He might get there faster, but I'm going to get there. Those are mindsets that are going to get you places. Clearly, those are mindsets that got you from one to 3,000, right? Got you from
and, and
one to
and the other thing that
42
I
states. Yeah.
I wouldn't I was like a dog on a bone in that I wanted no or yes.
Yeah.
I didn't want maybe. I wouldn't leave with maybe. Like I would just get them to say no, I don't want to do this. And I was great. Like I won't be calling you back. I think early on, 'cause maybes were eating up all my time. Like I was
Mhm.
kept going back to people and stuff, and it just seemed like I was, that Rolodex kept building. It looked like but I was just like I was active, but I wasn't going anywhere. Like, and
Mhm.
so I just got like really honest with people and said, hey, listen, I want to leave this with a yes or a no. Like, I don't want to have to call you back either way, and you don't want me to call you back. So, like, I'm here now. Let's get to the decision. Let's hear every reason you don't want to do this. I'll tell you every reason you should, and then one of us is going to make a sale. Like, you're going to sell me on you're not doing this, or I'm going to sell you on we're doing this. And I just kind of went into it with that like very uh frank, like that's what we're gonna do. And everybody's like, yeah, sure. I mean, the worst case scenario is I tell you to go to hell and
Yeah.
you get out of here. So I was like, all right, well, that's good. So that was like candid sales pitch, which is really horrible. Like, don't ever, no one should do that. So
No,
anyway,
well,
so
hold
that,
on, hold on, hold on. I want to push back. Like, tell me, so Kurt, because listen, you are like, you're like this. You're like, I'm a terrible salesman. I'm like, that sounds pretty high quality right there, right? Like what you just de described. It can be really hard for some people to be willing to hear no, right? And you're like, no, I literally, this is my goal. I want a no or a yes. So I want to just ask a couple follow-up questions to that. One, what, like what made it compelling or what was inside that you were like, because here, let me back up and say it like this. Some people are afraid to hear no. Tell me, why were you not afraid to hear no?
well, I was still in college. So like I couldn't take phone calls coming in. Like I need like when I was doing what I was doing in between classes that, when I was I started this company, I was literally still going to school, and I promised my mom I would graduate. So and my both my grandparents. So I I was going to do that. And so then it was just limited time. Like it wasn't anything. I don't think I thought ahead about. I was like, I have this amount of time to do this stuff. I don't want to. I just thought it was a. I don't know. I just that's what I'm going to do, and I don't
Yeah.
know that I thought it out all that much. Why?
Mm.
I just knew that I was going to get to yes or no. When I was doing maybes, like nothing was happening. Like
Yeah.
when I got to yes or no, like stuff started happening, and so I just said I'm going to keep doing that. And so that's what I've done. Now I've got sales guys now that we're much more like, hey, the sales cycle is longer, and we're, like there might be some reasons and things may change, and I definitely don't beat my guys up to, make one phone call, get yes, get no, move on. But that's kind of what I had as far as time and energy and availability of, I was getting calls in class, and this, back in the 1990s, not a lot of cell phones around, and so I was getting in trouble, and so yeah, they're like, "What are you doing?" And like, I had guys
You're
think I
like
was a drug dealer.
becoming a mogul, just trying to
Yeah.
grow a business.
So anyway, this is what
Here's
I.
what I heard you say, Kurt, is one of the reasons, again, it might not have been super conscious, but one of the reasons that you weren't afraid to hear no is because you knew that it would help you get there faster, right?
Yeah,
Like a
sure.
no, like again, so many people are afraid of a no because they think that it is keeping them away from their goal. But like what you just kind of knew naturally was no, a yes or a no will get me closer to my goal, right? Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
It's really the same. It's it, a no gets me to a yes sooner. A
yes.
maybe keeps me from getting to yes. Like a maybe just puts a whole bunch of time and energy that I'm wasting on the wrong
Hmm.
place.
Hmm.
Like indecision is what I knew I didn't have time for. So I was like, listen, there I'm fine with just getting the low hanging fruit. Like
Hmm.
there's enough out there that I believe that my product was good enough, my placement, what we could do. Just everything that we had was quite good. I absolutely, it may not have been, but I believed it either way. And so yeah,
It
I just
seems to
thought,
have
you know
worked
what,
out.
I'm just gonna plow on through, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Listen, I hear you. You just keep dropping these things, and I'm like, we need t-shirts. Like we need bumper stickers and t-shirts for these things you keep saying. Like, indecision is what I knew I didn't have time for. Like that right there. So many people spin in indecision, and it is a time suck, right? Like we spin in indecision out of fear of we're gonna have some uncomfortable emotion if somebody tells us no. And you're like, no, I don't have time for indecision. Indecision is a time suck, and I'm here for that. So you have some you're just building so we're just hearing all of the pillars of success I'm hearing, right? You're like not you have a fair amount of risk tolerance you're willing to go for. You were willing to be a beginner, right? You were willing to start with the skills that you had, and you were willing to hear no. You weren't willing to waste time. And the other thing I would underline is you were really committed to offering value ahead of time to the customers that you were trying to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
And also, I think just going into the, whatever business I was going to go into was like time was of the essence. Like that's what I valued more than
Yeah.
anything else. That was like the top thing I wanted. And so I quickly realized, like, dude, if I just give up all of my time, like I'm not going to get what I actually want. So like, I truly believe just the thought of like time's what is important to me. If I make some money, great. Like I watched my dad, build a great business, do really well, but he didn't find joy in that. And when I was younger, I was always like, man, how are you not like, why are you selling your garbage business thing makes so much money? And there's some things I, would talk to him about. And he's like, Kurt, I wanted to get filthy rich, and I got about halfway there. I got filthy, and so like the garbage business. And I was like, "You made a ton of money." He's like, "Yeah, but really, I didn't like it. It wasn't what fulfilled me. I really enjoyed, being a coach for wrestling, volunteering for that, and getting involved as a youth pastor, and then like he's like, you don't have that many trips around the sun. Don't waste it on something that doesn't you don't enjoy. So that was I kind of started with that end in mind. Like uh, I'm not gonna worry about making money. Like that's not that hard to do. But
Look at
making
all these like
time,
great nuggets. Another bumper sticker and t-shirt. Making money is not that hard to do. Like, listen, as a mindset coach, where like your thoughts will create your results, like that's one that everyone could hold on to. What if money just was not that hard to do?
it's not. It
It's
never has been. So
it's
that's
not. The other thing I just want to point out is um, you might not use words like alignment and integration, Kurt, but what
I
I
do.
hear, like in yoga class, no, but what I was hearing was there was a lot of integrity and alignment with the way you were showing up, right? You started out by telling us the most important thing, your why was your time, right? And you could see that through line then in how you were showing up, even in sales, right? You're like, I am not willing to waste my time. In indecision with a maybe, my time is more important. I'm not going to give up the thing that's most important to me en route to my goal. I'm gonna let that carry me to my goal, which is impressive. Yeah.
Okay. You say.
He's like, I'll take it. So let's talk about hard things. So, what was the hardest obstacle you faced while growing Premier Merchants Group?
Well, I mean, right out of the gate, trying to get anybody to loan me anything, like
Mhm.
money. That was certainly finances were very tough. What's so funny is you start something out and you go, I pitched every single bank in town. And of course, when you're asking for money
Mhm.
for a product that directly competes with, especially back then, banks, like it was like, we don't want to, like, even if this was a great idea, like, we're not really interested in having competition. We kind of own the space. Like, we're making really good money on ATM machines. No, this isn't a good idea. And I was in college. I was an idiot. Like, I don't think, I mean, most of the people were right. They shouldn't have loaned me the money. But I finally did get a guy to give me some capital to help grow this idea I had, and so yeah, but and now anybody will loan you money, and we're a debt free company, and I get calls like every day of somebody wanting to give me cash. But anyway,
You're like, now people are making me offers. What, so with it, did you approach that in the same way, like with your customers? You're like, I'm just trying to get to the yes, so I'm willing to hear no. Was that the same approach to trying to get capital? You're just like, I'm just going to ask as many people as I can, and I'm just willing to keep going until I get to my goal. I just won't give up, just dog on a bone.
well, I mean, just how our business was set up too. Like, I quickly realized, like, okay, how much capital do I have? And I mean, it's dollar for dollar. I need to load ATM machines with cash. Like, it's not like and so the ATMs I owned and loaded, I just ran out of capital rooms. And we're like, okay, well, what about the ATMs I can't own and I can't load? They're just physically far enough away. What if I call those people and sell them a machine and make some money on that? Get a processing deal and make a small amount of money every time that ATM does a transaction, and then I'll just help them um, uh, run their own ATM company. I can, and so
Mm.
that's kind of where I just self bootstrap funded by selling equipment, finding a way to build up capital, so then I could go after the really profitable locations, which is the ones I could own and load. And so
Mm.
I started. It was pretty new. That a business of my size would do both. Usually you're one or the other. You're not both of those things, just because it kind of eats up, you kind of specialize. And so I went to a company called Cashway. It's a 15th largest broadline food service company in the United States, and said, hey, you guys have a bunch of salespeople out there. You're selling everything to convenience stores, but there's a bunch of C stores out there that don't have this product. I will I will agree to tell them everything. And they can make a decision whether they want to own the machine, load the machine, do it everything themselves, and they'll make this amount of money, or I'll do everything, and then we'll figure out time and distance for getting cash there and a few other things that go into that. And they're like, yeah, we think that that'd be a pretty good deal. So I partnered with this company Cashway. They had a bunch of sales reps out there, and then started doing food shows, and it just kind of blew up from there. Now we do about 15 broadline food service companies across the United States. That's kind of our specialty, is working with these companies that sell just about everything to a convenience store, and we run their ATM program. And so we fly all over the country and do their trade shows, and just pretty much agreed to educate their customer on all of the options that come around an ATM machine. And an ATM in a convenience store per square foot, there's some guys that say it's a hot dog roller, but everyone else says it's the ATM per square foot makes the most amount of revenue. So it's a big piece of revenue out of what they make. And then when I
Not
started
the
talking to
gas?
what's
No.
that?
Not the gas? Like I would tend to think of the
Oh no, no, per
oh,
square foot. I mean,
oh,
it's how much money can C stores is really about, like, you start learning like how much money can you make
uh,
in a foot.
yeah,
Like it's there. Everybody wants to put everything in a convenience store, but
yeah.
like that's why aspirin is so expensive in a convenience store. You've got to kind of sell it at that price to meet the margins that you're making on everything else. You're so well, most C stores are in a very convenient spot. They're
Uh-huh,
convenience stores for a reason.
uh-huh.
And so, yeah, you're going to pay twice as much for a Coca-Cola than you do, buying it from Walmart. But you're paying for that convenience, and you're competing with all the other things that they can put in that space. And so when it comes down to it, ATMs just, produce a significant amount of revenue. I mean, the average C store is making 250 surcharge transactions at $3 a piece. It adds up pretty quick,
Mm,
and in a piece of equipment that costs about $3,000. So,
mm,
the average C store is paying for that thing in 8, 10 months and
mm.
seeing an ROI, equivalent to 120% a year on that piece of equipment. So it's good real estate.
Uh-huh. So what I'm like watching your brain and listening for when you're talking about the hardest obstacle that you're facing and overcoming. And I'm just watching like how do you like the creativity, the innovation, the problem solving. And what I notice is that what you even in that explanation, what you default to is looking for it's is sort of like earlier when you were talking about offering value ahead of time, the way you got to that solution when you couldn't get capital, the way you looked for the mutual benefit, right? Like how could you were like how can you offer value to somebody else and you get benefit at the same time? And that's what sort of gave you the traction that you needed to start loading those machines. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we just, yeah,
Yeah.
figured it
Okay.
out. Like, I mean, made it up as we went along, I guess. I don't know. But
Listen, that's a whole skill set, like being willing to because I just have to say this, like most of us, some of us who have like the perfectionist type A tendencies, we're like, we need to know the answer ahead of time. Right. But as you know, like in life and in business, that's usually not the case. You're like, I am not going to know the actual how to achieve this thing until I do it. Right. So you just have to be willing to go after it. Like you have some belief in yourself that I'm just willing to believe that I can figure it out. Like I'm not going to know steps 1 through 5 to get to the equation that I'm trying to get to, but I just have enough belief in myself that I'm going to figure it out en route.
yeah, I mean, I literally watched my dad. They bought a garbage truck. They went and they filled it up the first time. Like they put garbage in the truck. And then they went to the dump and they're like, we don't know how to dump this. Like we have to get the garbage out of the truck. Otherwise, we've just bought a great big boat anchor. Like that is like you can't put more garbage into that truck if you don't get it out. And so they literally had no idea how to do that.
Uh,
They watched some other people, and then my dad finally just like went up to a guy. He's like, I know you're gonna laugh at me, but we
uh-huh.
just started a garbage company. We filled this thing up with garbage.
Uh-huh.
We need to get it out. And he's like, you're serious? He's like, you're serious. I was like, yeah, yeah. Like, that's what we need to do. He's like, can you? He's like, yeah, I'll show you how to. I'm familiar with that make and model. I don't know how many makes and model of garbage trucks there were. I was pretty young at the time, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, and figured out how to dump the trash out of the truck, and they
Well,
was
now we're
day
just adding
one.
another step in the process, Kurt, is be willing to ask for help, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
people really want to, for the most part, when somebody asks you for help, like they want to help you, right? But people are afraid to ask for referral partners or like, do you know anybody who could work with me? Do you know anybody who knows how to do this thing that could help me? I love it. Your dad's spirit's like, I'm just going to show up at the dump and just trust somebody there is going to help me figure out how to. If I have to take all of this trash out by hand, one by one, we're going to get this stuff out. I dig it.
yeah.
That's great. So, okay, so a lot of the listeners of this podcast are high achieving folks who are they're chasing big dreams. Like that might be a personal dream, a professional dream, a career, business dream. So from your journey, what's one like principle that they can apply or something that you're like, if I was giving you one thing, the young grasshopper, like if I was giving you one thing, like what would be that thing that you would offer to people?
Um, uh, my faith in Christ by far is the most important thing in my life. I would say if there's one thing that I would say is not a waste of time is that um,
Mm.
I would say that is my one thing. Uh, but I guess on the business pure business side of things, um, uh, find your why, I guess, and make sure that everything you're doing conforms to that. Try not to conform. I see so many people that get success defined to them instead of defining it themselves. And that's probably the thing and when somebody else defines what is success to you, you're never going to be happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen it just looks to me like so many people are out there doing what they are told will give them happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I rarely ever see that actually work out. So
Yeah.
I've been pretty stubborn about like what is my version of happy, like what makes me happy, and I just don't move off of it. And I've found that that really has been pretty accurate. Like I don't know, I'm not impressive, and like I said, I even hate being on LinkedIn. Like I'm not so many people that are driven and and they like, and I think I have friends that are very successful and do really well, huge builders and stuff, and so much about their business really and they need to be out there. They need to be the person that they are, and um, they've got the wherewithal, and that's who they are to be that person and be out front and stuff. I'm just not that person. So I think that I don't really want to be notarized or known
Mm-hmm.
to them too much, and that but that's okay, and that makes me happy. So if you're not that person that really wants to be the front, you can still own a business, you can still do a lot of great things. Just do it the way that it works for you, and it's possible.
Yeah, there's like a whole TED talk in that answer, Kurt. That was like the the way you said it was just very sort of unassuming and it just a comment, just a very passerby, like define what success means to you. And then you said, like, you're never going to be happy if you don't. Like, yes, if you are chasing somebody else's definition, it's what I call the arrival fallacy, right? You're like, there's this thing, you just keep running and chasing after it. And then you get there and you're like, oh, I don't feel the way that I thought that I was going to. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
possible that you were never chasing the thing that was for you to start with. So that's yes, I high five to that. I agree with all of that. And we need to probably, that could be we could go on a whole nother podcast just talking about that. But I want to be respectful of our time. So instead of doing that, I want to ask you one more question or just one more thing before I ask my last question. And I want to, I'm going to ask this, even though you just told me, like, I don't like to be on social media. But if people wanted to connect with you, Kurt, and like find out about the work that you're doing and find out about your business, what's the best way that they find out more about the work that you're doing in the world?
Probably shoot me an email. I can give you my email information. I don't know if you want to say that out loud here or
Yeah, you can tell me afterwards. I'll put it in the show notes. Make sure everyone gets it.
okay,
Yeah. Okay.
perfect. It's Kurt. Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Kurt.
Kurt at pmgcom.com would be
Okay.
my email address. And yeah, just shoot me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Amazing. Okay, so then my last question that I love to ask all my guests is, what does it mean to you to live an unblocked life?
Um, uh, Giving glory to God for everything I have is probably the most unblocked I could possibly be. I try to realize that everything I have is a gift. It wasn't mine to begin with. I'm not taking it with me, so uh, giving back is always going to create a lot more than keeping for oneself. So probably what I got.
Mm. What I was hearing when you said that everything, it wasn't mine to begin with. Like that's actually often something when I try to ask people like what to identify like what their own gifts and talents are, people get very, especially the humble folk, right? We're like, oh my gosh, like oh, I don't have any. But when I frame it like you didn't make yourself, right? Like something created you, right? For some people it's God, it's whatever, like something created you. And so if you see that, like then what would you identify as the gifts that you were given? And so yeah, I know that's not exactly what you meant with your answer, but that's what came up for me is that, yeah, everything that you have is a gift and it wasn't mine to begin with. And I just invite listeners to also think about that in terms of your intrapersonal gifts as well. So, lovely answer. Lovely to meet you. Thank you for your time today, Kurt, and for sharing your journey and your wisdom with us.
Uh, Thanks for having me.
Yeah.